So I've interviewed a lot of well-known leaders on my podcast, and I find the higher up the food chain you go, the more likely they are just to be good, solid human beings. No mystical X factors, no ruthlessness, no air of, oh my godness about them, just good people. I interviewed Adam Goods in 2015, so he won the Australian of the Year award, and talked to him about leadership. And he said, I never wanted to be a leader, but when I was at the Sydney Swans and the Bloods culture came in, I didn't know what it was to be an Aboriginal person. And the Bloods culture showed me the rituals and the ceremonies and all that sort of stuff. And he said that sense of belonging, that feeling like I belonged in this community, actually made me want to be a leader for the first time in my life.
Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Bites. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons. Our guest today, Barnaby Howarth, is living proof that being a normal human being is more than enough. As a keynote speaker, resilience coach, and podcast host, Barnaby shares how to create a sustainable, long-lasting success and happiness. His message is simple, yet powerful. When life challenges you, roll up your sleeves, work hard, and be kind, and have faith that things will work out. Barnaby, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, loving it. Mate, your life has been anything but stress-free. 3 strokes, diabetes, your first wife dying from cancer. Yet you seem to be very upbeat about life. Why didn't you go down a downward spiral like some men do? Turn to alcohol, drugs, overworking, whatever. Why not you, Barnaby?
I've thought about this a lot, and I've just got flat out lucky. I've had some really good people in my life, really good role models, my parents, my grandparents, my cousins. And I thought about the times when I was on the edge of a cliff and thought I could easily just fall down here and get addicted to something. But those good people always help me realize that it's easier just to maintain a solid, good lifestyle. Don't go up and down and from depression to joy, and because it's really hard if you go down there. It's really hard to drag yourself back up. And I'm not saying we sometimes just don't have a choice of going down there. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying that's all I've done is just maintain a good level of sanity. And the older I get, the more I see people doing that, and I think, geez, I just feel proud, mate. So that's probably how I didn't get down in the dumps too much, because I just didn't have time. I was in hospital rooms and had family and friends coming in to say good day, and my mum came in with a game of rummy tiles and cards, and so I just didn't have time to dwell on things.
Yeah. So the 3 strokes, like I've heard a podcast where you talk about that on there. If you want to go back like a little bit in time, to just tell the listeners like how all that occurred, like what led up to that.
So I'm sorry to burst a bubble, but there was only 1 stroke, not 3.
I don't know where I got that from. Anyway, a stroke. There we go.
A stroke. So I was out with a mate of mine from my football club when we had a night off training, and we had a couple of beers in North Sydney. And on the way home, he started a fight with one kid in a group of 5, and he threw him on the ground and started kicking him in the head. So I ran over and grabbed my mate and said, "No, mate, you're being a dickhead. Let's go." And my mate and our 2 friends all walked off, but we only made it about 200 metres down the road. And the kid he was fighting, his friends must have rung their friends. So all of a sudden we were getting chased down by 20 guys. 2 of my mates ran, which is in hindsight what we all should have done. But myself and one other guy stayed behind and just got caught up in a massive gang attack. My mate was knocked out with a coward punch and then kicked in the head. I ran over and shoved the kickers off. And then apparently that's the last thing I remember. Apparently I got the same treatment. I got coward punched and then kicked in the head. And I tore my basilar artery, which is the single artery that carries all the blood from your body up to your brain. So if that artery is damaged, let alone torn, there's a 96% fatality rate. So it was I was put on life support. My family and friends were told to come and say goodbye. My parents were told they might have to turn it off.
How old were you, Barnaby, when this
I
happened?
was 25, so I was in the middle of a football season and a AFL I was playing. And a doctor came in to my hospital room just after I'd come to and said he reckons the only reason I survived was because I was still really fit from playing football. So um, I was unconscious for 4 days, so I missed all the drama. I couldn't understand why everybody was so emotional. But once the penny started dropping that I'd almost died, it became pretty real that it was a pretty hairy situation.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. And so, and like you were saying, then after that, you had all your family and friends
Hmm.
keep constantly visiting you and all that sort of stuff and trying to keep you upbeat.
Yeah, so it's one of those things in life, Doug, where people think for something to be worthwhile, it has to be measurable and black and white, tangible. But the stuff I got was totally immeasurable. It was just people turning up to my hospital room, showing their faces. One of the most incredible things that happened, and I still think it's one of the bravest things anybody's ever done around me. The guy who started the fight that I ran over and told him he was a dickhead, he turned up to my hospital room when I was on life support. So my family and my friends all knew that he was the man that caused it, and they gave him death stares and dagger eyes. But he took accountability. He's like, yeah, look, you know what? I did something that was stupid and it didn't work. And him turning up, I didn't even know he was there. I was unconscious. But that action was him basically putting his hand up and saying, I'm sorry, I'm to blame, and give me what you got. So I got so much respect for that bloke. We're not best mates. I don't think I'll never forgive him, but I respect him for what he did afterwards. So there was him. My little brother flew back from Scotland where he was on a working holiday. Family came from interstate. So it was kind of weird when I came to. I just opened my eyes and there's all these people from international and interstate. So it was kind of odd, but yes, they just came and flooded me, which was really immeasurably beneficial.
That is a wonderful thing to have, and I don't think we realize what we've got
Yeah.
until something hits the fan like that, and you it just automatically kicks into autopilot. But in saying that, if you'd been using your terminology, a dickhead most of your life and pissed all those people off, they
Mm-hmm.
might have, your little brother might not have flown back from Scotland, if you'd been an asshole to him all the time. Or, like they might have come and visited you once, but they mightn't have just kept coming back and back and back and
Yeah.
keeping your spirits up. But I'm sure you'd been a good bloke prior to that to, I want to hesitantly use the word to be deserving of that. But because families, overlook a lot of things too. So there's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you reap what you sow to a degree. So yeah,
Yeah, look, there were probably, I know what you mean about not being deserved, not being the right word, but yeah, I know what you mean. Um, one of the one of the things that's got me through my adversities, the Sydney Swans team came into my hospital room uh, a month after I had my stroke. So I played one season at the Swans in '98, and at the time I played with a bunch of young kids who were just Neville nobodies, but they went on to become legends of AFL. Adam Goods, Leo Barry, Jared Crouch, Brett Kirk, Jude Bolton. So they all came in just to get around me and just pat me on the back and say, hey, I hope you're okay. And I've got a photo of them all in August 2005 with Leo Barry leaning on my wheelchair. Then in September 2005, they won the Swans' first premiership in 72 years, thanks to a mark that Leo Barry took in the last quarter.
wow.
Um, but that's just the example of the immeasurable stuff. I played in 1998 with them, and I wasn't best mates with any one of them. I didn't have any of their phone numbers, but they heard an old club mate was down, so they dropped everything to come and get around me, and just they didn't give me any pearls of wisdom that have fired me up to be the best person on the face of the earth. They just were there, and me seeing that kindness and that respect from relationships I had 7 years earlier just gave me the confidence that just being a good human being, not being a dickhead, is enough. And it's not measurable. I can't scientifically explain it in a pie chart, but I can tell you that I am who I am because of the accumulation of seeds of small goodness that every single person in my life has planted. And you're right when you said if I'd been a dickhead, that probably wouldn't have happened. But I planted those seeds of small goodness without an agenda. My parents told me that just be a good person, be kind to people around you, be respectful. And I always used to say to them, but why? Like, no one's giving me jobs, no one's giving me money. I've got a car out of it. What's the point? They said, oh, just because that's what you do. And I was always really confused and never understood what they're on about. But after things like my accident and the people that turned up, that's what it's all for.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got four adult sons aged now 24 to 39. And
Mm,
as they were growing up, when they were little boys, teenagers, as one bit of advice I always gave them is what you just said. No matter what you do in life, always be a nice person.
mm,
Because I'd had the experience in workplaces where if you were a nice person in the workplace, or maybe deliberately or unconsciously, the boss would tend to favor you a little more with
mm,
opportunities.
yeah.
Not, in a deliberate way, but just they would be led to, they'd be think, well, if I send Doug off to do this course for a
Mm,
week, I know when he comes back, he's gonna put it to full use and I'm gonna benefit the boss because I'm just not gonna laze around with that knowledge and not be interested. And I said, like, your employer will educate you, will promote you, will give you tasks to do that are fulfilling, interesting, and will benefit your life and move you on. And the boys have found that. They're
mm.
the foremost wonderful boys out. And I just said, like, it doesn't matter like what education you get, all that, just be a good person to be around and the world will elevate you because it's easy to find dickheads,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Plenty of,
dime a dozen. It's hard to find lots of good, solid people
yeah.
who you would put your faith in, be happy to put some effort into them, even if you weren't going to get anything directly back. You know that they're worthy of it because not just because they're worthy of it, but they'll do something with
Yeah.
that knowledge, that gift, that whatever it is. They'll benefit themselves and others as well in a good way. So, guys, if you're on a path of developing your intuition, and I know you are, that's why you're listening here, then the Neurovisor is a tool worth checking out. It uses light and sound to guide your brain into deeper states of awareness, helping you quiet the noise, tap into your inner knowing, and strengthen your intuitive muscle. And who doesn't want that? There's no pills, no fluff, just 11 minutes a day to reset your mind and reconnect with your instincts. I've bought myself one last Christmas and I've added it to my daily practice, and the shifts are real. This is not a paid ad, but if you use the link in the show notes for more information, I do receive a small percentage of the purchase price. I highly recommend you check it out.
So, cool story for you. Do you mind if I quickly tell you?
Go, go, go.
I interviewed the daughter of Kenny Williams. Kenny was that old Swans fan that sang the song with him and was always around running water and stuff. He took his daughter to a Swans function when she was like 14 and took her around to all the tables and introduced her. Oh, Diane, this is John, this is Fred, this is Mary. And after the dinner, she went up to him and said, Dad, why'd you introduce me to all those people? Like, I don't know them, I don't really care. You know, what was the point? He said, oh, you'll find out, don't worry. 20 years later, one of those dudes, I think John, came and offered her a job. And she ran and came home all excited. Oh, Dad, remember at that dinner we met John? He just gave me a job. And Kenny looked her dead in the eye and said, and that is why I introduced you.
Yeah.
So you just plant seeds of small goodness every day, and 98% of them will do nothing. But every now and then, the one that does something would do it because they remember you or the good people around you and they respect you.
Yeah, that's right. And it's doing those things without expecting a return.
exactly
You
right.
know, yeah, or definitely without expecting a return short term. It's like
Mm,
long into the future when I've forgotten about this,
yeah,
something might come from it, or something might come to my family. You
yeah,
know, yeah, like you just never know what's around the corner, and
mm,
yeah. So the podcast is about, like, my theme of the whole thing is about intuition and
yeah,
developing it, and making men realize why, not making them, but just sowing the seeds to men of the benefits of developing their intuition. So I'm just going to quickly run by, and intuition is different to everybody.
yeah,
Everyone has a different thought. So I'm just going to really quickly give you my take on it, which
mm,
is my take. It's not everyone else's take. But I basically believe that there are benevolent, unseen forces out there somewhere that
mm,
are watching us, that love us, and are constantly trying to get messages to us, to help ourselves, and to help us help other people.
mm,
And I believe those messages come through a million different ways that we don't recognize. So that's, for me, that's intuition. And sometimes we do things and we think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And I knew I shouldn't have done it. Like, I just knew at the time it was not appropriate, or I knew I should have done it. And, someone who's homeless could have that feeling, or the richest person on the planet was,
mm,
we've all had it. So that's sort of where that's my take on intuition. That's, take it or leave it.
yeah.
Um, have you had any experiences in your life where you think there was some invisible benevolent force trying to help you get a message to you to, you know, at all?
I actually was quite flat for a lot of my younger days because I hadn't heard from the benevolent force. I I felt like I was just not doing it on my own and no one was helping me, and I was quite disappointed. But the older I get, the more I see, and I'm sorry to go contrary to you, Doug, but the more I feel like there isn't a force. It's just you and your flat out instincts, your intuition. And the more I find success from those decisions, the more comfortable I am with it. I used to be quite upset that I hadn't found something or someone, but I think it's just, I think for us as human beings, it's us and our decisions and the good people around us that help us out. So I'm don't think I'm trying to shoot you down, mate. I think it on a different track. But I think intuition is more important than people give credit to, because I think we live in a society where everything that's, I said before, everything that's determined to be worthwhile needs to be measurable and in black and white, tangible, definitive statistics. But I think that stuff that you just do, like you said, when you just feel like it's the right thing, or you shouldn't have done it, that's the stuff that drives us, and that's the stuff that is normally right. It's not measurable, it's not scientific, it's not proven. It's you, and it's you and how you've been brought up and the influences from the role models you've had, and every now and then you've just got to back yourself.
Yeah.
I've basically just been, pardon the French, but I've just been arsing it through life. I haven't got any strategies. My business plan absolutely sucks, but things work because I go off hunches and what I feel is the right thing to do and the respectful thing to do to other people and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's how I feel about the benevolent force issue.
So when you say the older you get, the more you start to feel that. So are, are you saying there that you're starting to recognize a hunch in a way, like you might suddenly think, oh, I've had this slight feeling, this idea, this whatever it is, tingle in my little left toe, whatever, before, and when I experienced this before, because it seems there's some familiarity to it. Are you getting that as you're getting older? You're starting to just recognize the very slight little things. It's not like you're some bright shining light that tells you, like, this is a moment to, this hunch is for real. Are you recognizing those tiny little inklings a little bit more now?
It's more a confidence that they're normally right, so follow them through. Whereas when you're a kid, you get a hunch and you're like, it's only a hunch, and I need something that's tangible. I need something with evidence. But the older I get, the more I'm like, well, hunch is the way things roll. Like this is the way I need to follow. So if I've got $1.50 in hard currency over there versus something over here where I might form a really good relationship that might lead to something, I'll go this way every time. Um, one of the examples of that, I on my podcast I interviewed Sam Mostyn 10 years ago, who's today's Governor General of Australia, and we had a really nice chat. She'd done some big things in business, and I said, so A, how did you find success? And B, what are you the proudest of? She said, well, to find success, she said humility was one of the most important things she has found in business. Just, she said she doesn't feel comfortable pumping her own tires, and self-praise isn't something that she can, sorry, your worth isn't something you can pin on yourself. It's something society gives to you. So she said, I just don't feel comfortable doing it. And then she said, the proudest thing I can say about myself, I think I'm a good mum. I thought, that is awesome. That's such a good, cool human answer. So I pumped the tires of that massively, thinking it was the right thing, and just sort of had a hunch that it felt good. So I just was putting it out on social media and all over the place. Then I ran into Sam at an event last September when she was the Governor General, and she came up to me and said, you and I need to do another interview. I just laughed and said, yeah, that'd be cool, but you're a bit busy these days. She said, no, I'll make it happen. So last year, I interviewed the Governor General of Australia at the dining table where Charles and Camilla had sat, sorry, King Charles and Queen Camilla had sat literally weeks before. And that, to me, is the instinct, hunch sort of thing coming to fruition. So the more things like that happen in my life, the more I realise that how I treated Sam Mostyn 10 years ago was the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a cool story. Very, very cool story. Getting, yeah, so interviewing her when she's, a busy businesswoman, but then
Mm,
10 years later when she's in that position of Governor General. Wow. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
that's pretty wild. So earlier on, we talked about your stroke, one stroke, not three.
Yeah.
But also I mentioned there your first wife passed away from cancer.
Mm-hmm.
What age were you? What age was she when that happened?
We were in our mid-30s.
Wow. Okay.
So it was a bit of
Yeah,
a
and now you're roughly mid 40s-ish. Is that right?
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
mid-40s.
Yeah. And now I've in another week or two, I'll have been married 41 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, either my wife or I are going to face what you faced, being without the other one. One of us is going to go. So it's something you've got experience with, and I don't. Can I ask you, like, how you went through that? Like, what emotions? Like, how? I mean, from when you found out she had cancer to she passed, was that a long time or a short time?
Pretty short time. So she was diagnosed sorry, we met in July 2013. Uh, then she was diagnosed in September. Yeah, she was diagnosed in September that year. We
Wow.
got married in November, and then she passed away in the middle of next year. So
Oh,
we had about 12 months together.
wow. Okay. And so, yeah, what sort of roller coaster ride was that like for you? Or were
Well,
you,
like everything in my life, mate, I was just asking it. I don't know anything about cancer treatment and the best scientific way to support someone that's struggling. It was all through intuitive thought and instinct. Um, my first wife and I, were basically the yin to each other's yang. We had certain things we weren't great at, certain things we were awesome at, and we just sort of helped each other out with those things. And one of the things that my first wife, wasn't great at was that self belief, that relying on your instincts and your intuition. She thought she needed to be better and what she had inside her wasn't good enough. So I tried to drum that in really often, and she quite often got the shits with me and thought it was a waste of time. Early 30, mid 30s, it's not a time for self development. So she thought she was done as a human, and I can't add or take anything away. I am what I am. But I just kept on telling her that she is good enough and she's got the strength and she can do it. She had a week at a hospital called Chris O'Brien Lifehouse, and I'll never forget it. She was only there for a week, and before we went in, the look of fear in her eyes was palpable. She just, she didn't think she was strong enough. She didn't think she was going to make it. And the look to me said, I don't know if I'm coming out of this hospital. I think she was really scared. But then inside the hospital, that hospital have a philosophy of just the staff treating people like human beings rather than as charity cases. So Angela was in there, and they just came and asked her about her family and where'd you get your clothes and beautiful weather, just human talk, human conversation. And I could see over the course of that week, she started sitting a bit taller and her shoulders started going back a bit more. When we left the hospital, when she checked out, I'll never forget the look in her eyes when we literally walked out the glass doors. She looked strong as a lion. The look in her eyes was saying, I don't know what's coming up. I don't know how long I've got left, but whatever it is, I can do it, and I'm going to do it. And I still get goosebumps thinking about it. And that was just all through intuition and helping her believe in herself. Nothing mystical, no X factor, no magic bullet, just her believing in herself, and the strength that gave her was phenomenal.
Mm. It's nice. And yeah, you become what you surround yourself with. So like for a week, she was around people, the nursing staff, etc.,
Yeah.
who were treating her like a wonderful human being. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
putting a bit of faith in herself, that
Yeah.
they saw her, she started to realize how other people were seeing her. And yeah, yeah, nice. Yeah. Again, being good human beings
Yeah. It's
helped
not rocket
uplift.
science.
Yeah, yeah. Not yeah. Or he could have took her to another hospital, and the staff could have been dickheads.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and it just pulled. And we've had that. We've got our closest hospital to us, public hospital. My wife's had
Mm.
two not good experiences there in the last 5 years. And
Mm.
so we recently took some private health insurance out for her so that we can take her to a hospital that's
Right.
actually physically closer. But if you ring them up and say, like, I'm going to bring in someone that they get, their first question is, do you have insurance? If you don't have insurance, do not come to this hospital, because they know how expensive it is.
Yeah.
It's off the charts, but it's a very good hospital. So we've gone,
Mm.
okay, we're not going to that. We're going to go where we're treated
Yeah.
like humans. And yeah, yeah. So, all right. I've just got a note here that you've got a new keynote presentation about your life story through the lens of the Bloods culture at the Sydney Swans, the AFL team. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
I'd love to, mate. Thanks. So I've been struggling with the idea that you can just back yourself and trust your instincts and things will work out, because society doesn't take that. Society wants things to be measurable and give it a name and define it. But I've struggled to do it myself. I've tried a bunch of different things and they just haven't hit home. But what made me realize what I'm doing, it's exactly like the Bloods culture from the Swans. So the Sydney Swans were in financial dire straits twice. Once when they were the South Melbourne Football Club and they had to move to Sydney to ensure they didn't go bankrupt and close their doors. When they got to Sydney, they once again found themselves in financial dire straits. They were faced with options to merge with Brisbane, relocate back to South Melbourne, go bankrupt and shut their doors, or just trust the systems and the good people around them over their entire history and just keep going forwards. And a lot of people thought that last option was the worst and the most stupid option, but they decided to go with that one. They appointed Paul Roos as coach in 2002. He brought in the Bloods culture along with the players in 2003, which was basically just a belief in that intuition, in a belief in hard work, respect, honesty, accountability. And in 2005, they won that one of the most famous premierships in AFL history, their first premiership in 72 years. And the Bloods culture has led to a long-term sustainable success that's still going today. The club's in an incredibly financially sound position. They've made a lot of grand finals. We won't talk about the result, but they've made a lot of grand finals recently. And I realized that my life has been a lot like that, just putting my future results into the faith basket and just back myself, believing in my messages and giving everything I have and just having faith things will work out. And they are working out. So I'm launching my new keynote speech at an event next week. And I'd invited Tom Harley, who's the CEO at the Swans and about to be the COO of the AFL next year. I invited him literally a couple of months ago and hadn't heard back. And I thought, oh, well, no drama. But literally yesterday morning, his EA sent me an email and said, Tom's going to come to your speech. Where can he park? How's he going to get there? I was like, that's incredible. That's such a seeds of small goodness thing. You just plant these seeds with no agenda. You don't sort of keep pushing people and get under their grill and hassle them. You plant seeds, and if they flower, that's awesome. If not, no drama. But I think the seeds that flower, if you don't put an agenda to it and you don't try and strategically hassle people, the seeds that flower are spectacular. Like Tom Harley coming to this thing is incredible. And Tom Samani, the longest serving coach of the Matildas, is coming as well. So those seeds just are spectacular on their own, and they generate more spectacular seeds given what people hear about the ones that are already flowered. Whereas if you're hassling and pestering people, you might get the odd green shoot every now and then, but it'll wither and die pretty quickly.
Yeah. See, Barnaby, that's where I believe there's an invisible, benevolent force that loves us. And I believe what you're saying is when we put all the effort in, we get in the way. They've got the ideas, so they put the idea out, Barnaby, invite this guy. And you did, and you left it at that. If you'd have followed up with an email once a week after that, like, are you coming? Are you coming? Potentially you're getting in the way, it's like the benevolent force is going, we've got it. All right, we've got this. What needs to happen will happen. Not what you want to happen will happen. You just have the guts to type the email. I can remember when I was up to episode 10 of the podcast, those first 10 episodes were me talking to the screen for 20 minutes. And then one day I heard a podcast of, do you know Trevor Hendy?
The surf lifesaver.
Yeah, and I hear a interview with him talking to someone, talking about stuff I'm interested in. He's talking about intuition. And I'm like, what's going on here? What's he talking about this for? He's used to be the Uncle Toby's Ironman guy, like when I was in my early 20s, doing all that sort of stuff on the beach, winning championships. And he's interested in the stuff I'm interested in. Wow. And I knew someone who had a fairly big podcast in America. And I was in the middle of typing an email to her saying, she was teaching all sorts of stuff about intuition. You need to interview this guy, like da 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 da. And I was 3/4 of the way through typing it. And then I went, F it. I'm not sending her this email. I'm going to invite him on my podcast. So I sat there at 10 o'clock at night and I typed Trevor Hendy an email like, would you like to, here's my podcast. This is what it's about. It was like 6 lines. It was a basic, it wasn't a fancy invitation, but it was the best I could come up with at the time. And I sent it off. And then 24 hours later, I got an email back from him. Yeah, sounds like fun. Let's do it. And I'm like, holy shit. So then he came to my house because he lived 45 minutes
Oh,
away from me at
really?
the time. Yeah, so I talked him into
Never
coming to
handy.
my
That's
house.
that's epic.
Yeah, so next thing he's at my house, and I'm like, shit, this is crazy. And I've interviewed him again, like a year after that. I've interviewed him, and then I interviewed his wife Jo because she's got her own podcast as well.
Uh,
And I interviewed her from the angle because 9 out of 10 people I interview are men of what's it like to be the wife of a very intuitive man.
mm,
Because, like Trev, he told one story, like in one Ironman race, like they do the run on the beach, they swim out to the buoy and back, and then
yeah.
they do a paddle on the surf ski. But they draw it out of the hat just before the event of what order it's going to be in. So it's always in a
Oh, right.
different order. Yeah, they
Yeah.
they can't train for a certain flow. And
Mm,
anyway, the last leg is the swim. Trevor goes into the water last, right? So
mm.
he's like, his chances of winning this race are off. And all of a sudden, that Fleetwood Mac song, Go Your Own Way, comes in his head. All right. Invisible, benevolent force.
Yeah.
And Trevor's thinking, I'm last into the water. I've got no hope because every guy in front of him, he knows how good they are. Like his
Mm,
chances of swimming past them
mm.
in this last leg are pretty low. Go your own way. Trev's thinking, I love breath hold. Down he goes under the water. And all of a sudden, he finds like an out current, like on the bottom, and it's
Oh,
sucking him
right.
out. Down he goes. And he says, apparently the commentators are saying, what's going on with Hendy? He's gone off the reservation. He's gone off to the left. He's not following him out, And when he'd come up for a breath, they would see him, and he's off track. He's even taken the long route, and then he's going down. Boom. Anyway, he
Mm,
says around. I go get right out there, and I go around the buoy, and I'm swimming back in, and I look up, and I see all these skull caps, of them all swimming, and he's like, "What's going on?" He still thinks he's last, but he's not. He's first now. So, he just did what, like what the voice in his head, go your own way, do what you want to do right now, because
mm.
you got nothing to lose.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But same thing, I sent the email out. And if he didn't reply to that, I was never gonna, send it again. But yeah, he's like, yeah, great
Mm.
bloke. And
Mm. Yeah.
yeah, so and he's all about your ethos, like just be a good bloke, like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he actually you mightn't like this bit, being a huge Swans fan, he's got a little bit of a he's actually working for part of the enemy right now to you for
Oh, is
Collingwood.
he?
Yeah, he's
Collingwood.
he's doing some coaching of the seniors. Not play. I don't think he coaches the players. I think he's coaching management and stuff like that. Yeah,
Have you got his
yeah,
number? I might have to give him a call and have a word.
yeah. Not to get him in a headlock. No, I do. I can put you in contact. No, he's a real
Oh
good
no,
bloke.
not
And
seriously.
actually,
I was going to give
what's
him some stick.
yeah, what's and I because I don't follow AFL. What's the really tall American guy that's on the Collingwood team now?
Oh, Mason Cox.
Mason. So Trevor's now
Mhm.
moved closer to where I am. He's just up the road actually. And one day I saw him and this really tall guy jogging like as I drove out my driveway. They're
Yeah,
jogging past my house. I'm thinking, geez, that guy's tall.
yeah.
And then I was talking to Trevor a month or two later, and I said, "Who was that guy?" And he goes, "Oh, that was Mason Cox." Like da 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 da. And then Trevor now, in combination with two other people in Melbourne, do a podcast, and it's all
Oh, right.
about longevity, like increasing your life and being healthy and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And they had Mason on. Um, and as a non-AFL fan, because I'd grown up in, different state to you, and we play a different, version of football, rugby league,
Mm,
and that. I've never really followed it, but it was really interesting hearing his story, being recruited from America, like, and he wasn't even like, he's just a really tall guy, and he was playing basketball, and then he got recruited over to
mm,
Gridiron or whatever it was. And then next thing, Collingwood are over there. They're trying to poach him over, and he lands in Australia. So his story was fascinating to me because I'm very neutral. Because Collingwood, from what I hear from my father-in-law, because he's from Victoria, you either love or hate Collingwood. Yeah, and
Hmm.
I'm the only person I know that's totally neutral. Because I've no affiliation anywhere, and so it's
Hmm.
interesting for me to unbiasedly listen to his story of being recruited from North America to Australia to play this crazy game. And he tells a
Mm.
story. They've gone his first game. He's watching, when he's come over for 2 weeks, and they've gone and got him a 4 and 20 pie to eat. And he goes, him and his brother came with him, and he says he's sitting there and everyone's watching, and he says no one else has got a pie. They've already had theirs, and they hand us these pies, and he goes, I'm looking at this meat pie thing, and he says I take a bite out of it, and he goes, it's still frozen in the middle. And he's trying to pretend that it's really, really nice. And he goes, my brother's was frozen too, but no one was watching him. And he went on, he snuck out the side and threw his in the bin. And he goes, I had to eat this hot meat pie with the middle of it was physically frozen. And it was, yeah, funny story. But,
Beautiful.
yeah.
I have a respect and Collingwood story for you.
Yep.
So I love Australian sport in that you can love or hate another team, but you still respect them because they're doing what they can and trying their hardest. And if they're not dickheads, then you can get along.
Yep.
So in the Collingwood basket, I'm more on the dislike side than the like side, but I respect the hell out of them. I was at a Tom Harley holds a thing called the Chairman's Club. At before Swans games, you'll get a room filled with sponsors and um, opposition CEOs and all sorts of business people. And I went to one of those, and I was sitting next to the CEO, the then CEO of Collingwood, Mark Anderson, and their training facilities in Victoria had just opened, and they were pretty, top notch and pretty elite. And I was asking about them and telling him I think they sounded awesome. And he said, "Oh, you should come down and have a look one day." And I thought that was just he's just being a nice sounding bloke. But he gave me his email address and said, "Get in touch and if you're ever coming down." So a few months later, I was coming down to St Kilda from a mate's wedding and just emailed him and said, we're coming down. I'm coming down with my wife. Can we come and see the facilities? Emailed straight back. Yep, sure. Here you go. He put me in touch with his assistant. She organised the tour. My wife and I went down there. My wife didn't give a rat's. She wanted to go to DFO. But we walked in to the cafe at Collingwood, and there's Mark Anderson, the CEO of the football club, sitting there by himself with a coffee waiting for us. He's like, "Oh, g'day, guys. How you going?" Went and sat down with him. He said, "Come on, let's go. I'll do the guided tour." So we went on he took my wife and I, 1 on 2, on a guided tour of the Collingwood facilities. And that is Australian sport in a nutshell. That was such a cool, respectful thing to do.
Yeah. Having, you would probably not approve. You've been around, big football grounds and all that sort of stuff and seen it. A couple of years ago, like just being in the atmosphere of those sort of places, I'd rarely ever gone to live big sporting events like that. But a couple
Mm-hmm.
of years ago, I had to do some work up in Brisbane at the Gabba cricket ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go and do some training in the main elite club room
Mm-hmm.
of just training the staff in fire safety. And so I'm going in there with my little bag of tricks and everything, going into, and someone's leading the way of where I've got to set up in this room. And next thing I'm sort of in this like, like I can't imagine how much you have to pay each year to be a member of, to
Mm-hmm.
go in the member stand. And it was just like, oh my God, the view that they have from that facility and the bars and the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant and the major big, pane of glass just uninterrupted looking out. I just, it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. The sun was coming in. And I just pulled the phone out because I don't usually think to pull out my camera and take photos of things like that. I just pulled it out and I'm like, click, 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 and send it to the family.
No, you
Like, look
frozen
where
me.
I am. Like, I was
Okay.
gobsmacked. That because those places where they seat, tens of thousands of people, the atmosphere at some of those it's like when you're there, you can feel the vibe, and there was no one in the stands. There was virtually no one else in this very posh elite, cricket club. But it was just
Yeah.
like, wow, I could like it was like it motivated me. I'm thinking, I would love to come here and watch a big sporting event, but I'd actually really want to do it from in this room, not out in the stands, you know. This would be the
Yeah.
place to be. Yeah, yeah. Wow. So just changing tracks here a bit. I'm curious on
Hmm.
this one. This might be a really easy question for you, or might be a hard one. Don't know. And I'm asking this because I have a lot of fears. So I'm curious, what's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear.
Mm.
My greatest fear is that I've put all my eggs into the work hard, be good to people, be a good human being, it'll all pay off. My biggest fear is that it won't pay off. I'm confident that it will, but my my ship hasn't sailed, and I'm just worried that it may not sail. Um, but it's one of those things where you just got to hold firm. So I've decided that is the way I'm going to go, and I just know that I can't now turn around and go, right, well, I've tried this way, it didn't work. I've now got to be ruthless and hassle people and be backstabby and annoying, because then all of the work you've done over 45 years of just being a good human being, you can just throw it out, in 30 seconds if you start being a toolbox.
Mm.
So that's my biggest fear. But I think I've been around long enough to know that this is when I need to just hold firm.
So your biggest fear is it all being nice and all that sort of stuff is not going to be enough to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
So to achieve what will it look like? So what is it that you're afraid of not achieving? What what will life look like when all that works?
So just having a lifestyle where we don't need to be worried about money. So at the moment where, we get bills and it's like, oh, am I going to be able to afford that? And we can't go on a holiday for a while, or, that sort of nitty gritty stuff. I want to be living a life where that doesn't matter. I'm never going to become just a non-thinking spender and just, oh, there's a jet ski, I'll buy that. I'm not going to be carefree, but I just want to not stress about it. I just want to, you know, if my daughter says I want to go to the Gold Coast to the Dream World, just for a weekend, I want to be able to say, "Yep, cool, let's go." So
Yeah.
yeah, not lavishness, but carefreeness is what I'm after.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. So what you're saying is when you interviewed the um, Governor General the other
Hmm.
year, you didn't send an invoice to the federal government for your time for that interview.
I almost didn't get that interview to happen. So she's got a million people working for her. One of the ladies working for her teed up the interview time. We go, no drama, no problem. Come in and do this. But then I spoke to her media manager, and he said you can't use the Governor General's image to commercialise anything. And I'd done a sponsorship brochure, and he said, "I'll send it to me." So I sent it to him. He's like, "No, this can't happen." I was like, "Oh shit!" I thought the rug had been pulled out, but then I told him that I hadn't sent it out, and and I'd make sure there was no dollar commercial value. So because I couldn't get sponsorship, I couldn't get any cash to pay for a cameraman. So I got two kids from uni. Family friend's daughter is doing a film course at uni. So her and her mate came and filmed this thing at Admiralty House for just work experience. And
And what experience they got? Like
yeah,
amazing.
and
Yeah.
it turns out they were awesome. They brought all their cameras and tripods and mics. It was funny that her mate, the young kid, was putting a lapel mic on the Governor General, and he had it upside down. And she's like, "Oh, I'll just ask someone to come and give you a hand." So she got her media manager. He comes in, he's like, "Oh yeah, these things are a pain in the bum, but just take it off like this and turn it up that way, and there you go, no drama."
I know exactly what that is because I've done a couple of live interviews, and my son, he's a professional videographer, and he's go, "Here, Dad,
Right.
put this on," and I'm like, "Dude, you do it because I can never clip it." Yeah, yeah, or it's
Yeah.
the wrong way or facing in, and yeah, you can't hear
Yeah.
it. I get that.
So just speaking of the Governor General, one of the coolest things about that day was her mantra is care, kindness, respect. She's the most powerful person in Australia. She could fire the Prime Minister if she chose to. But her mantra, care, kindness, respect, every single person, one of her staff that came around during the interview, they were waiting on her hand and foot. Oh, Her Excellency, do you want a glass of water? Do you want a pan? Blah, blah. Every one of them, she'd say, oh, no, I don't need a glass of water, thanks. But Barnaby, this is Tom. Tom's wife, Sally, does this, and their kids play netball and soccer. And she knew everything about every one of her staff. It was such a cool Australian leadership thing.
Yeah, that is cool, mate, because we've got one or two dickhead Australian leaders occasionally. To keep, I think that's the theme of this
No
podcast.
comment.
Don't be a dickhead. Yeah, so it's nice to hear you say that you're around a high end leader because look, mate, when I was in the fire service, I was, like middle management, but occasionally I'd get somewhere, I'd get invited along to something or someone had gone on holidays and I was acting in a higher position. I was still a very low end, but, a little bit higher than normal.
Yeah.
And someone further up the line would say, oh, Doug, we had so and so was supposed to go to this thing and we're going to look real silly if they don't turn up. We need you to come as well just to make the numbers up
Right.
to go. And I'm like, so I'm like, oh, geez, do I have to wear a tie? And it was a very odd time this would happen. But, and so I'd occasionally get to meet people further up the line.
Yeah.
And one of the state commissioner for fire services, I got to meet him one day. And like I'd met other people in that position briefly, and they were dickheads. Like it was just they were arrogant. They had an air about them. Like when they walked in the room, there was definitely they had a presence, but it wasn't a presence that you enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I got to meet the state commissioner for fire services. He's got 4,000 full-time staff, 8,000 part-time paid staff, and another 40,000 volunteers under him.
Yeah.
And we got chatting about a few different things, da 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 da. And the spot I was at, like I didn't have my work car there, and I was talking to some other people after like we finished talking with him. He was still in the room, and I'm talking to these other guys, and I said, "Look, guys, I need to get a ride from here to up the road, like 35-minute drive. Do you know if there's anyone here heading that way?" Well, guess who overheard that?
I'll make the important dude.
The state commissioner. He's like, "Oh, I'm going that way. I can drop you off." And I'm like, oh, okay. I was surprised he didn't have a driver. Like he didn't. He had his own like statesman, top of the line sort of statesman sort of thing. And he's jump in, no worries. So for 35 minutes, I'm sitting and I'm thinking, like he's like 10 ranks above me. Like I'm just low end. When I'm at work, I got 3 guys under me. Like that's it. And he did 98% of the talking. He just talked along merrily about all sorts of different things along the way. And he's like, and then when we get there, he's like, oh yeah, I'll run you. And I'm actually a bit embarrassed. I'm thinking, shit, don't drop me off at the door, mate. Because people will look at me really sly after this. They'll be like, oh, you're gonna like just be in with the bosses and you'll get promoted like that. And I'm thinking, park around the corner. I do not want anyone to see you drop me off. I don't want to try and explain this. It's amazing, but unfortunately it's few and far between like that. But it's so nice when it occurs and we meet these people who aren't dickheads.
Yeah. So I've interviewed a lot of well-known leaders on my podcast, and I find the higher up the food chain you go, the more likely they are just to be good, solid human beings. No mystical X factors, no ruthlessness, no air of, oh my godness about them, just good people.
Yeah.
I interviewed Adam Goods in 2015, so he won the Australian of the Year award, and talked to him about leadership. And he said, I never wanted to be a leader, but when I was at the Sydney Swans and the Bloods culture came in, I didn't know what it was to be an Aboriginal person. And the Bloods culture showed me the rituals and the ceremonies and all that sort of stuff. And he said that sense of belonging, that feeling like I belonged in this community actually made me want to be a leader for the first time in my life. So the people with, like we were saying before, the people with ambitions and agendas and strategies to be a leader, they're the ones who turn out more likely to be a knob. The ones that just go in with no hardcore, I got to stab this person in the back to be a better leader, that are just pretty relaxed and, oh yeah, I'll try my hardest to be proud of myself, whether I win, lose, or draw. They're the ones that go on to become exceptional leaders.
All right, I've got one last question for you, which might be easy, or might be hard. If your microphone was connected to all 8.2 billion people who are on the planet right now, and you knew that they wouldn't judge or blame or shame you for anything that you said, what would you say to them?
I'd say to them, whatever you're going through, whether it's a huge adversity and you're down in the dumps, or whether you just got stuck at a red light in traffic when you're running late for work, you've got this. Whatever you need to do, you've got this. Don't wait for something to come along and solve the problem for you. This is your problem. Just roll your sleeves up, put your head down, your bum up, work hard, be good to people, and have faith things will work out.
I like that. And when you said this is your problem, I like that too, because when you were laying in that hospital bed for 4 days, unconscious or in a coma or whatever you were, and you woke up, that was your problem to get through. And
Mm,
from my tiny angle on your life, it's made you who you are, it's made you stronger. So, like you say to these people, if you're stuck at a red light or you're whatever else is going on, that's considerably worse than that. It's your problem right now, but
mm,
it seems a problem, but it's there to become a stepping stone to help you climb up onto it and see the view from having conquered that thing, from just staying calm at the red light, like just zenning out. Like, I'm not going to I'm late for work. This is now I'm an extra 60 seconds late because I'm stuck at this red light.
mm,
I'm just chilling out. This red light could actually be stopping me from being involved in an accident a kilometer up the road. Because I'm not there, I'm here.
yeah.
We don't know. So yeah, and those things are there for us to either overcome or to protect us or to help us or to help us help others or whatever. Yeah, no, I love that. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
okay,
Beautiful.
yeah, just trust yourself, use your intuition. It's normally right. So just don't doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Just get in there, give it a crack. Most of the time it'll work, but if it doesn't, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't lose sleep over it.
All right. So I'm going to put your contact details and stuff like that in the show notes.
Thanks,
Is
mate.
there anything we haven't talked about that you want to cover?
Uh, I was about to tell a story about I used to host an event called Give It a Crack. So I think we live in a society where for something to be attempted, there needs to be a strong cost benefit analysis done, a risk assessment done. But I get the shits with it. I think we need to just try more things, having no idea what the outcome might be. So I used to hold an event called Give It a Crack, where people just get up on a stage in front of a live audience and just try something, singing, stand up comedy, dancing, poetry. And I haven't seen the look of pride in people's eyes burn as brightly for a long time. There was one girl who was doing slam poetry, and she was freaking out. She came up to me beforehand and said, "Barnaby, I don't think I can do it. I'm sorry." And I said, "No, the thing's called give it a crack. You're not there to impress. You're there to try it and see if you can do it." She said, "Give me 1 second." Grabbed a full glass of wine, sculled it, and went, "Okay, I'll do it." Got up and did it, and she was good. Like her performance was solid, but afterwards, the fire burning in her eyes was unbelievable. She was like, "Oh, that was so good. That was so cool. I'm so glad I did it." And I think that's what we need more of in life. People just giving things a crack. I think there's too much. Oh, but if I do this, I'm no good at it. People will judge me, and I won't get that promotion, and I won't get the spot on the team. Who knows? No one knows what the outcome's going to be. Just get out there, give it a crack, back yourself, use your intuition, and see how you go.
Absolutely. Awesome advice, Barnaby. Thank you. Mate, I think we've got some gold nuggets in what you've said today for everyone listening, particularly the men out there who wanting to improve their lives or help improve the lives of others around them. So thank you very much for your time. It's been greatly appreciated. And we wish you well with your podcast, your coaching, and all those sort of things. And with your talk, is it next week you're doing this talk or next month?
Yeah, next week at Rugby Australia. So I hosted an event about a month and a half ago, and Richard Toms, the former Wallaby, was there, and he came up to me afterward and said, "You should do one of these at Rugby Australia."
Awesome.
And I was same as the Governor General, just like laughed it off. Went, "Yeah, that'd be cool, but no, I don't know if it's ever going to happen." He said, "No, ring me next week. I'll make it happen." So he's organised this thing at Rugby Australia, which is an incredible venue. I watched the Leo Barry mark on their giant screen the other day when I was doing a venue check. So yeah, just one of those things. You just be good to be without an agenda, and stuff like this pops up.
Yeah, absolutely. That invisible benevolent force, Barnaby,
That's what it is.
that I think is there, has got your back. I think it's sneaking around and you don't know it's there, but that's fine because that's how it works. You don't need to know it's there.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's working.
Yeah. You don't need to believe in it. It's just there. I believe it's there anyway. No worries. All right, mate. Thank you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you, Doug.
Well, we're at the end of another thought-provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever-reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition. It will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.